Hi there! Welcome back to another video on my channel. Today we are doing what I read in the month of May. It's a little late for this sort of video, but that's okay. But yeah, I just want to talk about everything I read in the month of May, which consists of these books right here. So if you're interested in that, just keep on watching. Okay, so the first book I finished this month is The Language of Fanaticism. Oh wait, no, Cultish, The Language of Fanaticism, and then it's by Amanda Montell. I love this book. I can't remember what I rated it on Goodreads. If I remember, I'll put the stars down at the bottom. But this is nonfiction. This is a book that examines the sorts of language used by cults and the sort of things they say or the tactics they employ to recruit people and to maintain a following, even if it has like morbid results at the end, right? And then it takes that examination of the cultish words and language used and applies that to like marketing tactics for MLMs, for those like really like community based exercise programs, like CrossFit, I think was mentioned in here, or Peloton, either one. And then there was something else too. The exercise, oh, and social media influencers, which is, I don't know. If you know me, you know this is like up my alley. I am somebody who has a guilty pleasure of watching true crime documentaries and stuff, so it's got a bit of that. That like references certain cult cases that I was already familiar with, so that was an extra bonus for me. Um, but yeah, so I like that, and then I'm like a kind of a bit of a language nerd. Like, I am fascinated by language and how language shapes thoughts and identity. And there's a lot of that in this book. So it's got a little bit of language, it's got a little bit of psychology slash sociology. And then it also has like internet stuff and social media stuff and towards the end. And it's just everything that I'm interested in all in one book. And the cover, like, okay, I know this really doesn't matter at the end of the day, but look how cool the cover art is. Isn't this like amazing? So like if you guys don't know, my living room style, if you want to call it that, it still needs like a lot of work. But we have a lot of mid-century modern furniture, and I know this is more of a 70s thing than a 60s thing, but like with the UFO and just like these color patterns, like it fits into my living room so well. So that's also like a fun like added bonus, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I really like this book. The writing felt like girl talk vibes, which I feel like a lot of us who engage in true crime, um, coincidentally also engage in. I know the people I tend to listen to on YouTube have a more friendly personality, and there's like this whole subgenre of people doing their makeup and talking about true crime at the same time. So the girly pop's like scary shit. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, it's fantastic. And they it also talks about Scientology in here. There's like um this the author of this book, I think her parents were actually in a cult and they left. And so she or her parents discussed this idea of like deprogramming and stuff with her very often. And then like there was a time in her life where she was like a young woman or a teenager or something, and her and her friend were being recruited by Scientologists out in California. So yeah, there's like personal anecdotes in here. There's a ton of historical information. There is a little bit of psychology and sociology in this, like I mentioned, and a really interesting modern interpretations of the methodologies used. So I don't want to like spoil this book for you because I don't want to say like, oh, cults do X, Y, and Z, and this is like the perfect formula for it. Not necessarily, but a lot of them do focus on interpersonal relationships. Obviously, they want you to feel excluded from the outside world and more ingrained in their own community, whatever this is. But there's also like they make up words to feel more like in the know. So like there's certain vocab and language that means something specific to these in-group people that don't have translate to the same meaning when you're not in the group. So that's also something interesting that they tend to do. But those are just a couple of examples. I really think if you are interested in any of the stuff that I mentioned, that you'd be really, really into this as well. So I highly recommend this book. Go pick it up if you're into nonfiction or any of the stuff that I mentioned before. Yeah, it's an awesome read. Okay, so I started this month off really strong with Cultish, and then things kind of like fizzled out a bit for me. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So the second book I finished this month was The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Morena Garcia. And this book is actually inspired by another book that was written a really, really long time ago. And it's supposed to be like a more feminist retelling, I think. Um, which I didn't know that until like halfway in. I was like, okay, this sort of makes sense now. I get what she's trying to do. This is my third book by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I've read Mexican Gothic, which I really enjoy. That's the I'm looking for it. I know it's somewhere on here. Hang on. Oh, it's behind the pair. Sorry, it's behind the pair. I don't feel like getting it out. But I've read Mexican Gothic. That was my first book by her, and then I read Velvet Was the Night, which was okay. It was more of like a film noir type vibe, which like the story was okay. I just didn't really jive with the overall vibes. But when I read this one, I got both of these books at the Women and Children's First bookstore that we went to for the indie book day. And if you haven't seen that video, I have it on my channel where it's more like a vlog type thing slash haul, where Douglas and I went out for indie bookstore day and we kind of bookstore hopped um, in a neighborhood here in Chicago, and it was a lot of fun. But anyway, I got these two books while we were out there, I think. Yeah, I think I did. Yes. Okay. Anyway, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay. Anyway, so The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, you would think I would love this because it is set in the Yucatan Peninsula, and it's about a mad scientist who lives there with his daughter, and he creates these hybrid human creature animal type people. And the original plan, he gets funded for his research because they want to use them as slaves to replace indigenous workers who were rebelling at the time. And that this is so this girl grows up with like half human half animal hybrids in her house, and Sylvia Morena Garcia likes to do this thing where a lot of her heroines are painstakingly beautiful, but they're also kind of like ladies of their time, I guess. So she's like more like demure, and if they're not that way, they're the opposite and they want to be that way. Like Velvet of the Night, um, or Velvet Was the Night. I think the main character wanted to be like the ladies in the books and stuff. Whereas Mexican Gothic, she was sort of that way, but then she was also kind of more feminist and rebelling, which is probably why I related to that character more. This character is a little bit more sheltered. I will use that word. As a leading woman, and there's times where I just kind of don't agree with what she does, but okay, that's fine. Um, I okay, so that's kind of like the setup, right? So there's hybrids, um, and it's kind of like this whole place is a secret, and it's the hybrids can't even escape and go to cities and stuff because they don't want people freaking out and they don't want their secret to be discovered. Which okay, so that's kind of like the crux of the book. Now, if you don't want a spoiler, don't listen to the next couple minutes of this thing. Maybe okay. Let me put my rating on here. It was pretty good. I have a reservation. I'm going to talk about that reservation now, and that reservation contains a spoiler, like pretty much the big spoiler of this plot. So if you don't want to be spoiled, don't listen to the next couple of minutes. Okay, cool. I gave you time to skip over this part. So here we go. So at the very end, this the part where I didn't like this book is I felt like it didn't have enough punch. In the very end, there is a hybrid uprising against the person who's financing the farm, I guess. I don't know. So the dad is on his deathbed. She's kind of realizing that her dad sucks. She kind of always looked up to him as like a godlike figure because he can create life literally. And it's like he's not a good person. He doesn't treat her very nicely. And then she's finally realizing her dad ain't shit when her jaguar, half kitty, half human friend and sister pretty much has been telling her this her entire life. Like, girl, he is no good. Okay. So um I don't know if she's clueless or in denial or what, but okay, she's realizing her dad ain't shit. Her dad's on the deathbed. the son of the guy that's financing their whole life basically comes in, and that it's assumed that the two of them are going to get married, or like they're positioning the two of them to get married. This They just fuck a couple times. Um, that's graphic for YouTube. They have relations a couple of times, and then he like ends up discarding her because of course he does, and he discards her, or the drama happens because well, also this guy that works for her is like in love with her the whole time, except he's really old, so that was a little bit questionable too, and he's kind of racist in the beginning, so I didn't know why he was the lead love interest, but I think he was just put in racist situations because he's a white English guy, right? Okay, well, let's get that out of the way. um but yeah, he's older and he likes her too, and I don't they kind of do stuff with that, but not really. Anyway, so the whole reason he discards her is because we are find out that she herself is a hybrid. Oh my god. So the daughter of Dr. Moreau, he had a previous wife, and the previous wife died, and that's the one he was really in love with, right? But then he ends up doing an experiment with his own um, seed, and he uses a woman from the village to act, I guess, as like a surrogate mother, and he mixes his own DNA with that of a jaguar, and then gives the lady gives birth, and the lady dies because of course it's like a complicated birth, and then she's born, and she's see the thing is like previous all the other hybrids have severe health issues, and they don't really have very long lifespans, and they get tumors, like they just aren't really sustainable in their genetic design or whatever, and they end up suffering in this life, and the whole like, which I do enjoy this part of the book. They have a church service where the scientist Dr. Moreau gives sermons, right? And he talks about how suffering is a natural part of life, and that like God still loves you even if you are suffering, to try to appease and keep quiet the hybrids, right? So they don't rebel. Of course, there's a couple of the hybrids that see through this kind of bullshit. And it talks about even the main character, the daughter. She like likes the church, but in the church there's this painting of Eve, and Eve looks like a more indigenous woman, so she like finds that to be relatable in some way. So there are some like religious murmurings and metaphors that kind of connect to these concepts of, let's just face it, like blatant misogyny, and like, girl, if you're so impressed a man can create life, but that's what your mama did too. Don't even get me started. Anyway, so daddy issues relatable, but anyway, so um, yeah, so basically she turns into a jaguar, and you're like, oh yeah, she's pissed at her at all these men around her, and she's gonna start kicking some ass, right? She kicks a little ass, but in my opinion, not enough ass. She's still like, there's like, I don't know if it's self hatred too, or fear of one's own power, or what, and maybe it's just her personality. I don't think shy is the right word, but she's like an introverted bookworm, and they like don't let her let loose. Which that's my biggest gripe. At the ending, I want more blood. Damn it! I want retribution. I want nasty. Let this girl be nasty. Let her just tear bitches up. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. So anyway, the hybrids, oh, some of them flee, some of them die in this like rebel uprising. It's really scary. I think she could have done more personally to help with that, because this entire time, even when she figured out she was a jaguar lady, she still wanted to be diplomatic, which I can understand for like the first 5 minutes, right? But like after that, girl, go off. Like, and her like sister kept telling her that the entire time, like, you're being foolish. Why don't you just do this? And I don't know if that was like the author writing that sisterly character to appease readers like me, but yeah, that's where this book kind of fell flat for me. Like, again, all of this would have been awesome. And it's important to note too, like in some indigenous cultures in South America, and I can only speak to to some of the ones that I know from Brazil. But like the jaguar is such like a spiritual being. It's such a powerful being, and it's really significant in spirituality for folks. So the fact that she is half jaguar is almost like a divinity in itself. And from what I understand, I don't think the other hybrids are jaguars, but I might be wrong, but I don't think they are. Like her friends, her little siblings are cat-like humanoid creatures too. But I don't think they're made from jaguars. I think they're made from a different sort of feline species. But the fact that she's half jaguar is culturally significant as well. So yeah, but I just wanted to see her kick more ass. So that's my only gripe. Like, yeah, there's a satisfying ending, I guess, but it wasn't satisfying enough for me. Damn it. So yeah, this is my review of the Dr. Moreau. I was a little disappointed by that. So that's just it though. So now we are in my last book for the month of May. Um, this book I had really, I don't know if I had high hopes or high expectations or what, but I just felt like they weren't necessarily met in this book, and it's really disappointing. So yeah, mostly dead things. Okay, so I got this from the library, hence why it's so shiny and that there's a sticker on it. So I was drawn in by the cover because flamingos and color and woo and dead things. So anyway, this book is has stellar vibes. I will say that. I picked this book for vibes and it delivered on vibes. It just did not deliver on plot at all. So anyway, this book mostly dead things takes place in Florida. So everything is hot and gross and icky and kind of funny. We have a depressed lesbian as the main character, and she is also probably an alcoholic. And that's never really addressed in this book, but I think she's an alcoholic. So anyway, this book is about a family that has suffered loss in a couple different ways, but they suffered loss recently, and they're all trying to handle what that grieving process looks like, and it manifests in strange ways. So basically, the main character lives. They have a taxidermy business, and that business was run by her father, and she would help her father out. But then the dad dies, and there's also a brother and a mother, but the two of them tend to be a little bit closer. And the brother kind of lives at home, and the mother is never really allowed to be in the taxidermy shop. There's really strict gender roles in their family, despite having a queer child. Um, but I guess the main character might be more butch or something, and then maybe that's why the dad gravitates towards her. I don't know, but she's clearly her father's favorite, and they do the taxidermy together. She finally walks in the shop one day, and she finds her dad's body there and a note. And I don't think she shares that note with anybody in the beginning. Spoiler, I guess. Um, and this is on the beginning, right? So this is just setting up the scenario, right? Okay. So she finds her dad's body and like doesn't even have the instinct to really call anybody for help, but she tries to clean up herself, which I think speaks to her character. She's not very good about looking towards others for help, and she feels like she has to do all this on her own and micromanage her family, which again I can relate to. But but yeah, and then okay, and then here's the drama. This is what really got me hooked. So not only are they dealing with the loss of the patriarch in their family, right, with their dad, who was a very overwhelming force in their family. Um, she they're also dealing with the brother was married to this woman, and the woman left him and his children behind. He has like two children. So the woman's name was Bryn. Bryn left and left him with his two kids, and he's not really a dependable type of guy in the first place. He doesn't like working. He has difficulties being present in his children's lives, and he is kind of bouncing around from job to job, but he's trying to get his life together for her, and she just left to go be with somebody else. Okay. You get a ton of backstory about this Bryn girl throughout the book, and she's kind of just like a flighty person in general. She's not a nice person. She is not very considerate of others, even as a younger person. But you can also see that Bryn comes from like a hard childhood home life too, so that might explain the reason why she does what she does. I don't want to get too much into that because I don't want to spoil it for you. But the tea is that the lesbian was also in love with Bryn, and they had been having affairs together since they were teenagers. And like the Bryn ended up marrying the lesbian's brother, but the two of them were still having affairs the entire time during the marriage. So there's that. So she was madly in love with Bryn. And yeah, it was just messy. So I was like, "Ooh, that's messy. That's gonna be fun." And it was extra messier about this. And again, this is all part of the synopsis, so this is what I'm going to tell you. Um, on top of that, she's freaking out because her mom is doing weird shit with her father's taxidermy pieces. So if you guys don't know what taxidermy is, I'll just explain it because uh, you might be confused. So taxidermy is like when you stuff dead animals and you arrange them in like an artistic way, I guess. Most of the times when because okay, I understand because I got some country folk in my family too. And like my Jaj or my great grandfather, he had like a stuffed pheasant on the wall. And I know that my uncle hunts deer and stuff, and so he's had some bucks stuffed for a mount or what, you know, for the wall. Um, I don't actually love that, but you know, there's people in my family who have taxidermy pieces as like hunting trophies and stuff like that. So I know what this looks like. So I was like, oh, okay. But anyway, the mom takes these taxidermy pieces of like normal dead animals bound in a way, and she's been making art with them as part of her grieving process. And she also shaves her head, which is kind of cool because I shave my head. Girl, I get it. I shave my head too. When you're going through something, sometimes it feels good to shave your head. But she takes these taxidermy pieces and puts them in very inappropriate uh, positions with one another, with interspecies relations, and puts like toys on it as well, and like glitter, and makes it look all crazy. And the crux is that she eventually makes a piece that involves a dummy of her dead husband with an animal. Uh, so yeah, and it's not just like she's doing this in her free time. She's doing it like and putting it on display, and it eventually catches the attention of like an art gallery curator, and she provides the mother with a space to make a whole collection of these things and display that for their community. So the main character is freaking out because she doesn't know what the fuck her mom's doing, or like why her mom is acting this way, and it's just wild. And and then everyone in the community is going to learn about that too. It's not like something you can keep quite like shoved in anymore, right? And the mom was using it as an outlet because the dad was really overbearing with her and never let her do like stuff outside of the home anyway. um Again, traditional gender roles, oppressive husband, you know, girl, wild out. But the main character doesn't take that level of sympathy with her own mother, and in fact, a lot of times she reinforces like this internalized misogyny with her mother all the time, and just says like, oh, she just needs like a craft or something to keep her busy, or like, so there's a lot of misogyny coming from the daughter as well. And I think that's what happens when you try so hard to appease your father. Yeah, so you have that. So there's a lot of family drama going on. These people are dysfunctional, and I can really appreciate that. And there's continuously levels of sadness and like mopiness, and like that's okay too because grief is messy. And I think this book highlights that very well. The disappointing part is that it ends there with pretty much with the summary. I mean, this book is 356 pages. Okay, so it's a decent chunk of a book, and I just felt like there was no continuation of plot after that. And it was really just vibes because the way this is organized is that like there's some like quote unquote normal chapters um where it's happening in real time, right? But then there's certain chapters that are labeled with a like type of animal, like the Latin name for a type of animal. and it's got some sort of flashback related to that animal of something. And it's got like different sections. So one's called skinning, one's called mounting, and so yeah. So the theme of taxidermy and is riddled throughout this book, um, which I can appreciate. But again, it's just it felt like there wasn't much of a plot beyond the wacky stuff, like or it felt like for me like this book really dragged on in a lot of things. I feel like me personally, this could have been edited a little better. Like they could have taken out some of the flashbacks, or they could have taken, because it would have given full context, but there's just so much of the same thing. By the time you get to the end, it feels sort of rushed, because then they have like things to resolve that is just so basically. The pacing of this is way too slow, and then towards the end there's like this mad dash to try to resolve a couple of things. Here's where the spoilers come in, so I'm going to put spoiler beep beep boop boop right here, and then you can just fast forward to the end if you want. So spoiler alert, the main character ends up having a romantic relationship with the woman who's curating the art gallery, right? And it's weird because she also kind of like secretly wants to sabotage this art gallery thing. Um, but she's still having sex with this woman, and she is like really not a good partner because she's like really emotionally unavailable, and she just assumes that that woman's cheating on her, or like she's the other woman, because the art gallery lady was married at one point in time to somebody who still runs the art gallery with her, but she never even asked like, hey, are you still married to her, or what's the sitch? She just assumes things and continues to be messy. Which is, again, I guess messy people exist, but like so many things could have been clear in like two sentences that just drug on forever. And then with the art gallery thing, like there's so random. The only thing that really progresses is that one, the art gallery is set on fire, and it is assumed that the art gallery lady did it to collect the insurance money, and all the mom's shit just burns up as collateral damage, right? Which isn't fair to the mom either. And like that's the point where the main character is like, oopsies, maybe this was bad, and maybe this was actually a healthy outlet for my mom to process whatever weird feelings she was processing. Because she's like, should I just shove this bitch to a therapist? Which, yeah, you all need therapy, girl, period. You're suffering loss in really bizarre ways, and you have unhealthy boundaries and family dynamics. You all need therapy. um, but uh anyway, she was like, oh, and then she realizes, oh, this was actually helping my mom, and like I can't control her, blah blah blah. So it was after that she scoured like all this stuff that was remaining and tried to clean it up and give it back to her mom. Okay, cool. And then she ends up buying a like another previously I think it was a restaurant or something, and she wants to refurbish it into a new taxidermy shop slash art gallery for her mom to encourage the sort of um, talent that her mom has, because her mom is the artsy lady anyway, but she was just always restricted by her father. So yeah, so there's acceptance at the end, right? That this is the new life, because the entire time this main character is like resisting this acceptance and like still living in the past and doesn't necessarily want to move on. And then that moving on takes place like within a chapter or two compared to the rest of the whole book. I think I would have liked to see more progress instead of just a sudden like, oh, changed my mind. That's just me though. And then speaking of like the only thing that could be seen as like plot, so she's got nieces and nephews, right? I mentioned that they live at home with her and she spends time with both of them. The nephew is really going through some ish and is working at the shop to try to better himself. And then the niece too is kind of young, doing young teeny bopper type stuff, but they both help out at the shop under her apprenticeship. So she is also feeling some kind of way because her dad died and now she's fulfilling his role and teaching her nieces and nephews how to do this stuff. And so it just feels weird for her and she doesn't really know how to process that. Okay. Um, but then, like, the kids, instead of just picking up, because they would just pick up dead animals like roadkill, like on the side of the road, or if somebody hit an animal, they would go pick it up and use it that way. They never really like created their own supply, if you know what I mean. But the kids start to create their own supply. They actively go out and start hunting animals themselves to supply this with. And like the and again, the metaphor in this, which is like a heavy-handed metaphor, is that towards the end, like a customer comes in, this young woman, and she wants stuffed peacocks. So the brother and all of them go out and actually go to somebody else's house who has peacocks and kills some of their peacocks to bring home and stuff them for this customer. The main character is against this, but she lets it happen even though she's the adult in this situation. And then they all stuff them when they come back, but the main character thinks that they're like beautiful, and you know, she doesn't want to sell them, so she keeps them for herself. And at the very end of the book, she has her own display case of her own art with the three peacocks that's like supposed to represent her family now, right? And that's why I was confused. I get it's Florida, but then if that peacock was such an important metaphor, why is it on the not on the cover? It should have been a peacock. That was my gripe. Like there was not once that I can remember a flamingo involved, even though this was very Florida core. And I think they put the again, my complaint is even with the visuals, they prioritize vibes over plot. Because yeah, this is Florida vibes, 100%. The writing itself is really good and really like I thought it was really descriptive and beautiful. And I think the woman who wrote this, another queer woman, but she's normally like an essayist or she writes short fiction. And so this is maybe that's why there's issues with pacing, because when you write short fiction and when you write a novel, um, you really have to it's like two different things, right? You have to be like have certain skill sets and understand that, right? The writing a book is different than writing short stories. And I would know that because I try to do both. And it's just a different mindset for the two. It really is. So yeah, I think she was like an essayist. And obviously this person has more awards than I do by a long shot. Um, but yeah, I just think that this I really would have liked to have a full on story about grief rather than just vibes about grief, I think. Or at least this was paced a little bit better, maybe edited a little bit better, maybe that realization come about a little bit sooner, and then like her trying to work towards being a better person, then I would have rooted for the main character more, because the main character really isn't a likable person. And I'm not saying everybody has to be likable, but I want to root for you, girl. You know what I mean? But you're so messy and you're so mean to your family, and it's like you think you're better than everyone, but you're really just sad. And I don't know. So yeah, this was hard for me. I think I ended up giving this a 2 star. The writing itself is great. It's just it didn't again, it was more vibes than substance. But if you don't really mind that and you like books that are just vibes, then yeah, pick this up. It's really weird, but I liked the weirdness. I just wish I don't know. I just wish I would have had more of a story and like a feeling of like real triumph at the end. Like I wasn't really satisfied with the ending because the pacing was so off that I couldn't cheer for them until it's too late. It felt like their problems went away out of convenience rather than just like actually writing a way for people to try to be better. I don't know. If you've read this, comment down below and let me know what you think, because this I really pondered over this back and forth like a while to really try to figure out why there's parts of it I disliked, and I really think that was it. I think it was more so that I wish there was more concrete plot. Um, but that again, the short stories was like um you can do a lot of vibes in a short story, which is why I like writing them. But the plot is like 1, 2, 3, right? You have 3 beats, beginning, middle, end, and which I guess every story is too. But with a novel, you have more room to make wiggles in between beginning, middle, and end. So you should write more between the three rather than a short story that just needs 1, 2, 3. You know what I mean? And I felt like this only had 1, 2, 3, even though it's 350 pages. So yeah, I'm just blabbing at this point. You know, I think I'm like really over extrapolating that book. But yeah, that's everything I read. For June, I don't know. Let me tell you what I'm currently reading for June. That will probably be in the June book, just like a little preview. I'm reading Bright Young Woman. This was recommended to me by or I watched this YouTuber called With Cindy. I love her book recommendations. and this was something she recommended, so I am reading it. But I kind of need to take a break for this for my mental health because this again, true crime related. This is a fictional telling of of a woman named Pamela who survives a horrible mass murder spree at her sorority back in the 70s in Florida. More Florida vibes of yeah, it was her sorority in Florida. And then she tries to keep everything together because she's the president of sorority, and I really like her personality because it feels so genuine to me, even if it's kind of ridiculous. Like you're worried about like housekeeping chores, or you're worried about your daily routine in the midst of mass tragedy, but it just feels so real to me. I really appreciate her, and I'm not done with this yet. I'm probably like, see, there's my bookmark. I still have a little bit to go. But anyway, so it's about Pamela. She survives this thing, and she's trying to keep it together for the rest of the story and maintain some sort of normalcy after this horrific, terrifying event of a mass murder spree by some weirdo in her sorority. Okay, and then she's trying to work with the police to get it caught. She then runs into a woman named Tina, who is also connected to this guy that they assume did it. He has been traveling the country hurting women, and she has a connection to a previous victim as well. And the two of them are working together with this journalist guy named Carl, and they're trying to piece together the story of like how this guy got away with all this stuff because he was like in a bunch of different prisons and just kept breaking out and then like attacking women. Um, and so yeah, that's the story. These two women are trying to figure out um, they're seeking justice. Damn it! And I really like that because this feels like a true crime type story that decenters the sicko, and it's more about the women involved and their strength and like uh the tragedy that is when that these victims had their lives cut too short. And there's this passage in this that I already thought was so wonderful, and I took a picture of it because I liked it so much, that I can talk about in the June video. This also like has so flashbacks from the 70s till today. Like Pamela's going to go see this guy in jail for some reason. I don't know why. I'm not at that part yet, but it flashbacks between different characters and different timelines. But it's so good. I'm telling you, it's so good. It's just there's a lot of heavy material in this, which is why I needed a break. I think because I was low-key triggered yesterday, and I haven't experienced that in a long time. And so, so I think it's best that I take a break from this book for a hot minute, because there is heavy content in this. If you are worried about how scary men can be, then you might not like this book because almost every single man in this book, even the quote unquote well meaning ones, it's like scary in some capacity. And I just think this being socialized as a woman, I found so much of this shit relatable already. And like I just it's just beautiful. It's just yeah, I like this book a lot. I don't know how it ends yet. Like again, I still have quite a bit to go, but I'm loving this right now. This is fantastic. Um, but I think my mission for June is to try to find some more cozy reads because I need a break from all the intense stuff going on right now. So if you have any cozy book recommendations, I would really appreciate it. I've already read Legend Lattes, which is pretty cozy, but I think there's a sequel, so maybe I'll like read that. But I also read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. That felt kind of cozy to me, so I might read the sequel of that too. I really like that book. So I don't really read a lot of romance, but you know, because half the time, sometimes romance can have a triggering ass stuff in it too. Like, you know what I mean? We're not safe. So anyway, I need like a quote unquote safe book or something to read as like a refresher in between because right now I'm like, ah. So yeah. That is all my book readings for the month of May and what I plan on reading in June. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you liked it, or if you want to see more of this, I have a whole playlist where I've been doing every month this year of what I've been reading. So if you're interested in more book recs, there you go. And Yeah, if you like this video, let me know by liking it, commenting down below, sharing it with a friend, or subscribing to the channel. Please, please, please. That would really help me out a lot. And until next time, thanks. Bye.